I would just like to start by thanking the Bungie employee who decided that it was a brilliant idea to include Battlegrounds inside of the regular strike playlist and the Grandmaster strike playlist pool. Now, if you can clearly tell, I'm being sarcastic. There is no God, there is only pain, there is only suffering. If you tempt this, beware. There's nothing at the end of it. You're gonna do it once and never do it again, just so you know. Okay, now we can get started. To do this, GM, is to acknowledge the very essence that is Battlegrounds. Now, you're going to be faced with an infinitely spawning or near infinitely spawning pool of enemies that you just have to push through, kill as many as you can, maybe leave one, maybe leave two. Just don't expect that if you clear an area that you're going to be able to go back to that area and it's going to be completely clear of enemies. You think that the developers would make the game in such a way that it doesn't punish you for actually doing your job and instead forcing you to play the objective into the same crowd of enemies, but alas, I've gotten my job application rejected by Bungie maybe 30 times, so they don't want to hear from somebody who knows a thing or two about video games. All coping and all jokes aside, I think that this is probably one of the most bullshit Grandmaster Nightfalls to ever exist, specifically because the infinitely respawning enemies, the shield issues, and the fact that it is not a strike, it is a seasonal activity that was jam-basted into a Grandmaster setting just so they'd have an excuse not to make any more content for us. Now, I know I said I was done with coping. Getting onto the actual modifiers, the only things you need is Unstoppable and Barrier. Now, imagine my surprise when the same things I said about every other strike have going to apply to this one. Just use Polaris Lance. I'm telling you, this thing is absolute gravy. I hate the fact that it's the best gun in the game, but hey, here we are. We take what the Lord has given to us. John Bungie has blessed us with a season full of Polaris Lance being used for the safest and easiest endgame content. I'm not saying it's the most effective. I'm sure some of you are going to be able to cook up some of the most haram shotgun builds known to man, because Shotgun Surge is the weapon surge this week. If you Titan mains out there feel like using your Strand Banner of War builds, but this is what most of us with brain are going to use. For an actual area-by-area guide on how to approach this Grandmaster Nightfall, essentially you're going up, killing a couple champions, and then pushing a cart until a fallen Brig spawns. Now, the Brig will one-shot you if you get caught anywhere within its radius, so just keep in mind, don't be afraid to use your supers on it, just hit it until it dies, and then move the cart up as quick as humanly possible, and just keep no enemies are going to be spawning literally the entire time you're doing this, so be careful. Once you have finally killed the Brig, do not linger. Take care of the champions as quick as you can. Hop on that car and push it as much as the Lord will allow you to push it before you are absolutely overwhelmed and swamped by exploder shanks that are going to come at you from the area where you need to push the car. Great game design, I know. During this time, it's important to consider that the areas you think it's going to be safe to retreat to are not actually safe, because fallen ships will come and deposit enemies in the places you think you're going to be able to hide. Nothing for nothing. I don't even know if this was play tested, and I don't even know if I'm confident enough to say that this is possible for 99% of the casual player base, but here we are. This right here is precisely what I was talking about when I said infinitely respawning enemies, because what is the point of having 3 knights and 1 wizard up on these little platforms that the game thinks and suggests that you might be able to kill, but they just, in the end, respawn? And if you, God forbid, you have a teammate that died up there, how are you going to be able to get them? We did it, but it took a while. It took a really, really long time, and we didn't even get to kill them. We just had to run through the respawns and hope for the best. Alright, once you actually get inside of this building, this hallway here is going to be your best friend. There isn't a single universe that is going to require you to push into the actual room. You're just going to activate the enemies by running up a little bit and then just falling back. You should be spamming your super as much as you can, as safe as you can. Just stay back in this hallway. If you go into that room, you're just going to die a horrible, not so very good death. So just camp here and pray you don't get farmed by the ogres. If you do, I promise it's not a skill issue. It's because the game is poorly designed, not because you are bad at the game, in my case. Once you killed the last enemy and once you activated the bell, you're finally done with all that nonsense. You are on the home stretch, but not so fast. You have to move into a hallway that used to have enemies inside of it. I distinctly remember there being enemies inside of this hallway, but they since have been removed. And hey, good changes are good changes. Credit where credit is due. But when you get to right here, pause. You're going to have a couple options on what to do. Option A is to just sit back as far as humanly possible and just shoot. Option B is to run up as close as you can and try to hit the boss that way to get its health down, but there are other enemies inside the room, so be careful. Or option C is to have this happen to you. Getting triple killed by the shields is never a fun time. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it. That little move right there cost me 2 years off my life with the amount of tequila I had to consume just to keep my nerves cool. However, this is where we're at. Good news, because once you're at this point and you get teleported into the boss room, the only thing you have to do is have one person go up and activate it and then run right back. I'm telling you, it is as safe can be standing back on this platform, and I promise you, there's absolutely nothing that can kill you, and there's nothing to be concerned about. Obvious foreshadowing aside, the audio in this room is absolutely horrible, so just be prepared for 10 minutes of some of the worst listening experience you've ever heard when it comes to Destiny 2, which is a game that normally has phenomenal sound design, but hey, just shoot at the boss for 5 minutes until you get a shield done. Make sure to kill the champions before you break the boss's health barrier to 33%, and then we're going to pick this back up right when the first Savathun mini-boss comes up. This is where it starts to get a little bit annoying because Savathun is a bit of a tricky one considering you can only kill it with the Relic Spear. Now, this particular Savathun that spawns here has a relatively low percentage, relatively low probability chance of actually hitting you with any of its attacks, but you still gotta be careful because there is a way that they could finagle its way into the back line and just kinda get the shots off. You don't get hit with a lot of the over-the-top lighting attacks, but you do get hit with the handball blasts occasionally, but they're easy enough to see, easy enough to dodge. Just run up whenever it's safe, grab a spear, and go to town. What I would try to do is if I couldn't guarantee safety, I would try to throw a healing grenade onto the actual spear itself just so there was a simple landing pad. And folks, remember, heavy ammo isn't, actually it is, a resource that you should be saving, so just use it whenever you want, because most of your damage is going to come from the best weapon in the entire game, Polaris Lance. So, as you can tell by my almost dying, yeah, just do what I'm doing, repeat the mistakes of your ancestors, and continue to play Destiny 2, and gonna pick this back up in a minute. Same theory as Savathun killing applies as before, except you and your team actually need to go up and do a little bit of groundwork because the Savathun on the left side of the arena can very easily kill you if you are still camping in the back. So you and your team, if you can, be very careful, but try to bum rush Savathun. Just know you can refresh the Synaptic Spear as you're holding it, so that's something to consider if you are having some troubles. Just make sure you're not actually attempting to deal damage to the boss or stay on the platform with the Synaptic Spear. If you stay on this platform right here, you're going to die and you're going to regret it. The only reason I didn't die is because I am peak Destiny 2 gamer and I have over 2 hours in this game and over 30 hours in this particular PsiOps farming and trying to get the best guide for you, the viewer, because I love you and I'm totally not shilling, because when my fire team died here, I wanted to vomit, I wanted to scream and cry and throw up because this is the furthest I had gotten all week. I can't even begin to tell you how frustrated I am at this strike at this point, but hey, said it once, I'll say it again, this is where we're at. Bucket we ball. Once you've inevitably gone through all that Savathun heartbreak like the Chad gamers you are, and you finally kill the final boss, you have to remember to actually go up and execute it. If you do not execute the light bearer, it will start you in the third phase all over again. You have to do all that damage all over again, and like I said, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And now, the best part of the strike is going to come up, the part where you kick your LFG fire team. No, I'm just kidding. You don't do that. That's never a good thing. You're waiting for the rewards. In this particular week, it is Warden's Law Adept. So, let me tell you that we wasted all of that time for an Adept Warden's Law, one of the worst hand cannons in the game, and a Blight Ranger with a horrendous stat roll. So, ladies and gentlemen, please I hope you have a great day. I hope you're doing better than I am right now, because this is just incredible. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.